Hey there, coming to you again, wrapping up our series of lectures on different bodily systems. And Unit 7 will conclude those series of lectures talking about the endocrine and immune system. And so we're going to start in Chapter 10 of your text if you want to follow along and hit the endocrine system first. So when we talk about the endocrine system, it's actually a gland, but actually does not contain any ducts. So the hormones are released into the extracellular fluid or the bloodstream and are moved and mobilized from there. Generally speaking, we're going to divide hormones into four chemical groups. One is derived from fatty acids, the second from steroids, derived from cholesterol, the third derived from amino acids, and the final class are peptide hormones. So when we talk about the endocrine system, generally we're talking about some negative feedback, some arrangement that regulates the endocrine system. There's a lot of what I'll call checks and balances in the endocrine system. Certain things that trigger certain hormones or cancel out other hormones. There's a lot of agonist responses in the endocrine system. So a hormone is oftentimes secreted in response to changes within the internal environment somewhere. Sometimes it's to simply correct something or stop a secretion of something. But this diagram here on the right, I know that's a fairly vague statement, but you'll get more detail here in a little bit. Here we have on the right, here's the extracellular fluid where we have a hormone that has been released. It attaches to a receptor, and then we get a secondary messenger, and then it will alter activity in the cytoplasm of a cell, say to produce estrogen, for example. So when we look at endocrine glands, there's a lot of different major glands, and the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland are closely associated with location and function, up in the brain. So the hypothalamus functions really as an endocrine gland. The pituitary is the master. So the pituitary has two lobes, posterior and anterior, so front and back. And again, a diagram at the right where you see the hypothalamus and the anterior and posterior pituitary and the different hormones that they can act on. The pancreas then is also quite important in the endocrine system. It's closely associated with, of course, the digestive system. We mentioned it back in that unit, talking about it helping dump hormones and triggering gastric juices into the duodenum, but it also works specifically with insulin and glucagon to work together to help break down foods. And it consistently is elevated by blood sugar, and if we get it too high, of course, we get the response of diabetes. Other organs that are associated with endocrine function, of course, the stomach releases gastrin, which triggers those gastric juices to be released. The duodenum that we mentioned in the digestive system that I was just talking about, inhibitory peptides are released there to help break peptide bonds and trigger the release of pepsins. Kidney releases renin. And then we can get to the adrenal glands. They lie cranial or just above each kidney, and they are tied to that kidney gland to help regulate renal function. We also have to highlight the thyroid gland, which is located, of course, up here in the neck. It's the only endocrine gland that you can really palpate. If you've ever been sick, maybe had a bit of a cold or the flu or something like that, and the doctor may palpate your neck up here to feel for swelling in the thyroid area. Generally, it produces two hormones, thyroxine and calcitonin. Of course, when we talk about then clinical practice, we can't finish up this section without hitting on, say, well, what could go haywire if we have something that is not working properly in the endocrine system. Sometimes hormones are used to treat hormone-related diseases. We could use glucocorticoids or prostaglandins. For example, if an animal is anestrus, she's not showing heat. Administering some prostaglandin may help jumpstart or restart that reproductive tract, so that it will go ahead and go through a normal cycling process. GnRH could help do that. Posilac is also known in the industry as BST, that helped kind of remove some upper limits for milk production. The picture of the dog on the right, he's got obviously a glucocorticoid problem, probably a diabetic in that instance. So I'm going to pause here, and this good boy that's taking a smile at you here on the left is going to say, take a break, tidy up your notes, and let's get ready for the next segment. Thanks for tuning in.